Number 1. The murder of a young woman in broad daylight with an eyewitness is still unsolved more than 30 years later. Lisa Leanne Atkins was born in 1966. It's a day her mother, Martha DeManew, will never forget. She was fun-loving, DeManew said. She loved animals. Absolutely adored animals. One of the animals Lisa loved was a parrot that squawked in the background as DeManew spoke. At age 21, Lisa gave birth to a baby of her own, Scott. His grandmother Martha was the first person to hold him. They said someone has to hold him, Martha said. Robert looks at me and says not me. And I said okay. I was the first one to hold him. Barely a year old, Scott would lose his mother to a murder that is unsolved to this day. DeManew said she believes, still, that Lisa had a premonition. I believe she thought she was going to die because she kind of distanced herself a little bit, DeManew said. Last few months, she was a little less close. The 22-year-old was at work the day before Easter in 1988 when an armed robber walked into the Village Pet Mart on Orange Grove. I picked up Scott at his grandma's and brought him home and put him down for a nap. Lisa called me and she was just talking. We were going to meet after she got off work to cash my IRS check. DeManew said. The two never got to follow through with those plans. I put Scott down for the nap and I laid down with him, DeManew said. While their mother was sleeping, Lisa's younger sister, Katina, was riding her bike. She heard something happened at the plaza down the street where Lisa worked. Katina raced to the plaza, but police would not let her inside. Lisa's mother recalls the moment she knew her daughter was gone. The district attorney's office and the victim's witness brought Katina home, she said. As soon as I saw the man, I knew she was dead. Her parents said Lisa was at the cash register with a co-worker when the armed robber pulled out a gun and started demanding money. Lisa's co-worker tried to open the cash drawer, but fumbled his keys and dropped them on the floor. When the co-worker bent down to pick up the keys, the robber shot Lisa. Shouldn't happen to anyone, DeManew said. You should never happen to bury your children. Should not. The Pima County Sheriff's Department released a sketch showing a bearded man with sending hair in his late 20s. He's described as 5 feet 11 inches tall, weighing about 170 pounds. Lisa's mother told KGUN9 the sketch never turned up any leads, as the search for her daughter's killer continues. It bothers me to think that some other mother must have known her child did it and didn't do anything about that, DeManew said. Lisa's son, Scott, is now 31 years old. He's married with 2 children. Lisa's parents, David and Martha, call Scott their son. They raised him after his mother died. After 3 decades of waiting, Lisa's family is still waiting for justice. It's been so long it's almost like the memories are gone, I'm afraid, Martha said. Anyone with information about what happened to Lisa or who murdered her is encouraged to call 911. Number 2. Court documents are shedding new light into the investigation of Christopher Clements, the man indicted in the deaths of Isabel Celis and Maribel Gonzalez. Both girls were found dead near Trico and West Avra Valley roads outside of Tucson. According to the documents, the investigation began in February 2017 when Clements' then-fiancé called the FBI and said Clements knew where Isabel was buried. In a letter to his fiancée, Clements claimed there was a total of 4 bodies buried in that desert area outside of Tucson. Authorities believe 2 of the 4 are Isabel and Maribel. They do not know who the other 2 are. Isabel was 6 years old when she vanished from her parents' East Side home in April 2012. Maribel was 13 years old when she went disappeared while walking to a friend's house in 2014. Maribel's body was found a few days after she went missing. Isabel's remains were not located until March 2017. The FBI interviewed Clements in February 2017, and he said he knew where Isabel was buried, but refused to lead them to her unless 2 Pima County burglary cases against him were dismissed. Authorities also agreed to release Clements' vehicle, which was being held in the burglary case. On March 3, Clements led agents to the area of Trico and West Avra Valley roads. Isabel's remains were found soon after. During the search, Clements pointed out an area that had numerous discarded tires. He told them it was a landmark he remembered. The tire area is where authorities had found Maribel's body in 2014. According to the court documents, a DNA test put Clements near Maribel's body. Clements told investigators he did not kidnap or kill Isabel, but he refused to say how he knew where she was buried. Clement is being held in the Maricopa County Jail on burglary charges unrelated to anything in Pima County. He told agents he knows what weapon was used to kill Isabel, but refused to tell authorities where it was unless the Maricopa County burglary charges are dropped and he is allowed to go home. After the discovery, investigators found out Clements was a registered sex offender who lived in Oregon, Washington, Florida and Arizona. In 1998, he was convicted of attempted unlawful sexual penetration with a foreign object in Oregon. In 2006, Clements was convicted of failure to register as a sex offender while living in Florida. When he was 11, he was accused of molesting a very young child, but he was never charged. At one time, Clements and his fiancée lived at a home on East Alita Street in Tucson. During the investigation, authorities found a plastic container buried in the backyard. In the container, they found a young child's sweatshirt and homework with the name Mercedes on it. Mercedes was Isabel's middle name. Investigators said they found what appeared to be ashes on the ground. Before that, Maricopa County authorities seized several items from the East Alita home, including computers and media storage devices. Child porn and sexually explicit photos involving children were found in a search of the computers and drives. The computers also turned up interesting search histories, according to investigators. Some of the search terms include Isabel Celis sexy, child killer found not guilty, body found in desert, Arizona cold cases, Kalani Tadio, Dana Ireland autopsy photos. Kalani Tadio is a 6-year-old Hawaiian girl who was raped and killed in 2001. Mark Davis, the man accused of killing Kalani, was found dead in his cell in 2013. Dana Ireland was hit by a vehicle while riding her bike in Hawaii in 1991. She was kidnapped and raped before dying from her injuries. When investigators searched Clements' jail cell in Maricopa County, they found the name of an inmate in Pima County. The inmate identified Clements from a photograph and told authorities Clements started talking to him about the Celis case. Clements allegedly told the other inmate that there was damning evidence in the trunk of Clements' car, and he had to get it back. The unnamed inmate said Clements told him Isabel was strangled and chemicals were poured over her body. Clements also allegedly said that Isabel was never supposed to survive the kidnapping. The inmate said Clements showed him photos he had hidden in his Bible, photos that were allegedly of the Celis home. Number 3. A murder case gone cold. Now, nearly 2 years later, a family is trying to do what it can to put the people who killed their 20-year-old son behind bars. An incentive for the public to help out. A $20,000 reward. Life has changed for the Corbett family ever since their son, Zachary Corbett, was killed on October 13, 2015. Holidays aren't the same, birthdays aren't the same, family events aren't the same, his mother, Ann Corbett, said. The night he was killed started with a home invasion in Midtown. There was a demand for some money and drugs, his mother said. The two roommates were pistol whipped,